God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you for joining me. This video is going up in place of yesterday's video that did not go up whatsoever. So I hope that you'll accept this as yesterday's video just being uploaded late. I spent a lot of time yesterday in other endeavors and just spending time with my wife. We were very busy all weekend. I had yesterday off as it was a holiday, and we just spent that time, catching up and being together. And those are the kind of days that make me the happiest. And so I dipped my toes into the new pool of news yesterday evening, saw this headline, and thought this will be easy to talk about. First of all, CNN shall no longer be known as the Clinton News Network. We've been calling them the fake news network, and that doesn't really fit in with their logo. So we had been calling them the Clinton News Network, and then the campaign ended. So that is not really applicable anymore. Even before that, they'd been called the Cable News Network, and that wasn't a very intuitive name because of obviously all the positive coverage they were giving to Clinton, covering for Clinton and attacking Donald Trump. And now that we've reached this moment in time, I believe it is now not only appropriate but imperative to be accurate to the beliefs of the people over at CNN to call them the Communist News Network. And I'll show you exactly why. The headline of this story from The Wrap is that CNN tweets Martin Luther King was a socialist before it was cool. Internet freaks. And by internet, they mean some high-profile right-wingers on Twitter. Because nobody from the left dared to touch this tweet with a 10-foot pole. And several high-profile people from the right decided to respond. So let me just show you the tweet. I think that this is more powerful than reading the commentary. Now, when you think of Martin Luther King Jr., what do you think of? What was he celebrated for? There's a reason that when we talk about Mr. King, we don't talk about his economic policy or his political policy or his environmental policy. We talk about his speeches, his beliefs, his campaign against racism. It's undeniable that Martin Luther King Jr. lived and worked in a time when there was overt racism, even some institutionalized racism in America. And that's what he spent a great deal of his public life working against. This is why he is remembered, because of all the work that he did to try and address racism. He gave the famous speech that he dreamed that there would come a day when his children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And I think that Mr. King would roll over in his grave if he could see the culture that the left is cultivating, where black and brown people are judged as less capable and in need of special privileges and assistances because of the color of their skin. And that has nothing to do with the content of their character. And in fact, some black and brown people are attacked because of the content of their character. They have the wrong content of their character. Therefore, they must be obliterated. They must be annihilated. They must be maligned and insulted because of the content of their character, coupled with the judgment that's passed on to them by the color of their skin. Any black or brown person is judged to be of a certain stripe by the left, and if they are able to climb into the public sphere and present a message that doesn't fit with what the left thinks they should be based on the color of their skin, then you're not really black, or you're not really brown, or you're Uncle Tom, or whatever. This is the culture that the left has cultivated, and I would hope that Martin Luther King would roll over in his grave at the sight of that. Here's the tweet that CNN put out there, and it's not just any hobo at CNN. The official CNN logo is on this tweet at CNN. This is the organization tweeting this, not some bum at the organization, not somebody that works for them, the organization. He's an environmental hero. Nobody cares what Martin Luther King Jr. had to say or had to think about the environment. We celebrate him because of his speeches and his work to reduce racism. We don't care about his environmentalism. He was a socialist before it was cool. First of all, CNN is suggesting that socialism has ever been cool, or even is cool at this point in time. Second of all, nobody cares about Martin Luther King Jr.'s political commentary. There's one more bit. He never let a political disagreement turn nasty. This is obviously a jab at Donald Trump. There's times when Donald Trump will have a political disagreement with somebody, and he'll take the opportunity to make insulting names about that person. There was, in the primary, there was Little Marco, there was Tired Jeb, there was Lion Ted. These little insults that serve to motivate his voters to come out in support of him. In the general election, it was Crooked Hillary. It's a short clip that's a prick at your opponent, and also something to motivate your voters to come out and vote for you. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's how those quips work. And Martin Luther King Jr. was just a different person than Donald Trump. What CNN fails to tweet is that King was a Christian. In many of his speeches, King spoke about, God and his Christian faith. He was a pastor of the Christian faith, and CNN is making that a positive thing. He never let political disagreement turn nasty. I dare say if there was a black person that was a Christian that did all of the things that King did against racism, but didn't touch environmentalism and didn't touch socialism, they wouldn't call this a positive. CNN wouldn't. Now, obviously there's a lot of reaction about this. First of all, I think this one from Stephen Miller was just perfect. Is CNN suggesting it wasn't cool to starve to death in China in 1960? That was when King was doing his work, was in the 60s. That was the time when Mao Zedong was doing the Great Leap Forward, and millions of people in China were starving to death. And this is the time when Mr. King is reported to have been made glowing reviews about socialism. Now, this is something that we're not taught in schools today. Now, I think it's interesting that CNN would put it this way. Many Americans have turned King into a safe holiday mascot, but some say King still speaks in ways that go beyond civil rights. To the contrary, the only thing that people are taught about King is that he did good things for civil rights. They're not taught about his views on socialism because that might taint people's perception of him. They're not taught about his views on environmentalism because that might taint people's perception of him. It's interesting that CNN would do it this way. Would say that it's wrong to make King a safe holiday figure. Because it's exactly by making King a safe holiday figure that people might be more accepting of his beliefs on socialism and environmentalism. I already trust Dr. King, or was he a doctor? Martin Luther King Jr. to be a trustworthy figure. He's a trustworthy figure because of his work on civil rights. Now look and see what he said about environmentalism and socialism. You should go and look at these things. You trust Mr. King, now go and look at what he said about these things. But CNN is somehow maligning that way that Mr. King can be used while they are doing that exact thing, using Mr. King as a trustworthy figure to try and push socialism, to try and push hyper-environmentalism. I think it is a disgrace to the work that Mr. King did in his time campaigning for equal civil rights. I think that it's a shame that a person as intelligent and charismatic as Mr. King, who would use those skills to pursue something just like equal civil rights, equal treatment under the law for people independent of their race. It saddens me that this is true of Mr. King, that he was a socialist, that he was I haven't seen many of his quotes on environmentalism, but I would assume that if CNN is talking about it, that makes him a hyper-environmentalist. And I think that you could almost go back to Harvey Weinstein when talking about this. You know, Weinstein's company made good movies. I think this is inarguable. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you who produced some of the movies that I love the most. I just don't pay attention to that kind of thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if Weinstein's company made one of those movies. Somebody can do good works and have evil beliefs. Now, the last time I said something like this, somebody asked me to define good and evil. And I didn't do it on this channel. I did it through the comments section of somebody else's video. It's very plain when someone does something evil. You know, the human psyche is revolted by evil. We're naturally drawn to people that do good things, and we're naturally revolted by people that do evil things. And this is a discussion for a different video. In this age of moral relativism, we have reached the point where people feel it is legitimate to ask me to define good and evil, when it should be obvious what those things are. Obviously, socialism is evil because of the results that it cultivates. Death, poverty, starvation, the obliteration of the individual identity, the obliteration of the value of an individual human being. It seems to me that is obviously evil, but we live in an era where people believe that all those things are justified in the name of the other result of socialism, that millions upon millions of people are now economically equal. They're economically equally stuck in poverty, but at least they're equal. There's one guy that has everything he could ever want. He has his trusted circle, which gets to take everything that they could ever want. And then there's everybody else that gets the shaft. It's like that old country and western song. You know, except when it comes to socialism, you know, the modern example is Kim got the gold mine and North Korea got the shaft. we just, I can't even put words together at this moment. Now, it's a discussion for another time. I've spent too much time talking about it already. If you're interested in hearing a discussion about, I guess, what I think about moral relativism, let me know in the comments. I can work on putting something like that together. I'm sure there will be more interest than the people that do decide to voice their opinion. But let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know what you think about Mr. King's work, whether or not his beliefs on socialism and environmentalism negate any of the other work that he's done, in the same way that we have said Harvey Weinstein's evil deeds negate the work that he has done. Let me know if you think otherwise. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss a single upcoming video. There will be another one going live later this evening. You won't want to miss it. Again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, have a good day, and God bless.